So this is a funny one, this story. This is, by the way, that's Kate Middleton. We talked about her. This is about Siddiq, as in Tulip Siddiq, who's, of all the things, she's the anti-corruption minister, and she's had to quit over links to corruption in Bangladesh. But before we all jump on it, it's not her, it's her aunt, and we're not, Reem, completely clear whether the aunt has done anything wrong and whether Siddiq has done anything wrong either. So it's all a bit murky.
Yes, we don't know that any wrongdoing has actually occurred at all. But of course, it's the look of perception, isn't it? It's how it looks. The fact that this government, not even a year into this Labour government since the election, has had a former Labour member of Parliament arrested for paedophilia or alleged paedophilia.
Who's that? Is that the Ivor Kaplan?
Yes.
Oh, God,
Ivor
OK, well, that's an obscure one to hit me with. OK, right.
At the same time, so all
He's not even an MP anymore,
well,
that guy.
Former, but various different scandals have occurred over the last few weeks.
Oh, then Louise Haigh, who had a conviction,
exactly.
yes.
They've had a minister resign over a conviction, and then now this, with Tulip Siddiq resigning over alleged corruption or questions of corruption. So, we have no idea if any of it is true. And
I'm sorry, Rim, just to explain to the viewer, because it is, I'll see if I can do this and you tell me if I'm wrong, OK? Bangladesh, tit for tat between the parties there. Siddiq's aunt accused of trousering an enormous amount, £3.9 billion, and Siddiq accused of a connection with her. But it may just be a political thing. That's what politics is like that. So I don't know what's going on.
Politics is a bit like that. I've got to say there is an element of hypocrisy coming from the Labour front benches regardless. They criticised Rishi Sunak relentlessly for his family wealth. And yet here we have, actual ministers on the Labour side that are incredibly wealthy and have incredibly wealthy families, which are not a bad thing. I think
Harriet,
that wealth should be celebrated.
You've been through the ringer occasionally on, I remember back in the day when, there'd be some sort of, not a scandal, but you'd get done for something. I mean, a choice of school for your kids or whatever. And I remember as a correspondent thinking, oh, this is all a bit unfair. But politics is unfair.
Well, I think actually what Keir Starmer's trying to do is show that he's got high standards, that if there are accusations which might be serious, there is a reference to the Prime Minister's advisor on ethics, and that when he comes back with his letter saying, although she hasn't broken any rules as far as he can see, there are some things which he hasn't been able to look into because a lot of it was a long time ago in terms of her property ownership or occupation, and therefore, because there's some lack of transparency about things or things that he couldn't see into the details of. Therefore, there might be a perception of.
Is that a letter?
That's his letter to his letter to the Prime Minister. So basically, I think Keir's wanted to act ahead of it and actually show the difference between himself and the previous government. Even though she's a very close ally of his, he's not prepared to keep her in government. However, he said, as the ministerial advisor on ethics has said that there isn't anything, to be found here except perception, the door is open for her to come back in.
She'll be back as sports minister.
I think that it is quite complicated.
Not corruption, no.
I mean, look,
so you're thinking, if you're the Conservatives, how do you attack? You can't say she's corrupt, obviously. So this is the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, who's attacking Labour. Let's have a look.
I think Keir Starmer has a blind spot. He's got bad judgment. He's more interested in supporting his cronies than he is in making appointments with integrity. It just shows he is a crony Prime Minister. He is not making appointments in the public interest, and he's now twice been caught out. And what makes this so striking is, of course, in the previous Parliament, it was Keir Starmer who cloaked himself in this mantle of sanctimonious moral superiority.
Well, I think he's absolutely wrong. I think what Keir Starmer's shown is that if there is any sort of accusation, he will act quickly.
Well, I think I was going to say, but it's the thing where there's any taint over someone, they get thrown out the back of the bus. I mean, that's not a quality you'd be proud of. A complete disloyalty to his friends. Why doesn't he defend her?
I don't think the public want loyalty to friends from a Prime Minister. They want a clean government. They want proper processes of investigation, and I think they want the Prime Minister to err on the side of caution. That's what he's done here. There might be further investigations which might see her back in. But I think he is saying that if there's a sort of any taint hanging over anybody, they don't have a place in his government. He's got lots of talented people on the backbenches he can bring forward, and that's the way he's going to do it. So
I don't know.
It's the opposite of what Chris
I
Philp
don't
said.
think that Chris Philp is right in saying that that any of this is intentional from Starmer. I do think it is a blind spot. And the fact that when Keir Starmer was in opposition, he spoke relentlessly all about how much that the Conservative government have, waves of corruption, that these ideas that actually Starmer is going to be, I suppose, cloaked in this moral superiority. And yet we had the alleged corruption scandal with Lord Ali. We had the question about why this Labour Lord was being given a direct access to number 10, given a number 10 pass, whilst he was buying Keir Starmer lovely suits and sunglasses. I think that there has to be a question about whether or not they just view themselves as incapable of being corrupt or incapable of being susceptible to corruption because they are not the Tories.
All right.
But
I just was
she's
remembering.
out now. The whole point is she is out now.
Yeah,
so
she is
he's
out.
not keeping her in and smoothing it over and trying to press on regardless. He's saying, no, she doesn't have a place because we want to have high standards.
But it's pretty. I mean, sorry to remind you of your travails, but it was the first story I did when I was a political correspondent, going back to when I was like 30 years old. And I come into the house, I'm so excited. It's like, for me, it's like walking into a movie, And Harriet was in trouble because of her choice of a selective school for her child, which probably your child is probably now 30 or something, or 40. Peter Mandelson came up to me and he said, I know what you want and you're not getting it. And I said, well, I'm like a junior. And yes, I said, what do you think I want, Peter? And he said, you want Harriet to resign, and she's not going to. And I said, well, the BBC doesn't have a view on Harriet Harman's future. And Peter Mandelson said, I don't mean the BBC, Jeremy, I mean you. Yeah, it was I always remember that. And the point is that they defended you, right? They said, we are putting a ring of steel around Harriet and we're going to let this blow over.
Well,
and that was quite admirable.
Yeah, but that was about politics. It was nothing to do with propriety. Nobody'd said I'd fiddled the application.
They could have dropped you.
There is a huge difference.
It was just a question of a choice of a grammar school instead of the nearby comprehensive.
Right.
So it wasn't to do with allegations of impropriety.
I just think they were loyal to you. They were loyal to you.
Yeah, but people don't want blind loyalty. They want actually the Prime Minister to set standards and keep to them.
Okay. All right.
And it's not about friends. In fact, I remember once when it was in the papers that I was going to be sacked. And my special advisor said to me, oh, look, this is absolutely terrible. You're going to be sacked. This is what it's saying in the papers. And I said, Tony Blair would never sack me. He's my friend. And the special advisor looked absolutely aghast and said, the Prime Minister is not your friend. The Prime Minister has no friends. He's the Prime Minister.
That's a great line. That's a great line.
And actually, he was right.
Yeah.